بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين. Inshallah, what I'm going to share with you is a brief summary of the outlines of a package of 5 books. We've been thinking about what a Shia youngster needs to know about Islam before going to university or starting work or getting married. At the moment, because we have not had such training, so even people who are elders, they need to study this. So we have started with teachers, with active members of the community, university students. But inshallah, in future, we must work in earlier stages so well that before finishing high school, they have this amount of knowledge, inshallah. So we divided what they need to know into 5 areas. Each area is covered by 1 book. 2 of them are designed the way that can be taught to Sunni and Shia students. So Sunni students should be happy, and also it should be something that also the Shia would be happy. 3 of them are only for the Shia. So in this way, we thought that it's better if we can teach some aspect to all Muslims and some for the Shia. But we hope that inshallah this would be also useful for non-Muslims, because many times non-Muslims also want to read something about Islam. So this inshallah should be useful for them as well. Something also we have taken into account is that we don't want just to give them some information. We want to help them to understand that this is what someone should believe in, to develop conviction in the heart. Because some of the books, they only say, Muslims say this, Shia say this, Sunnis say this. Even, for example, some of the books that even in some of our Islamic schools are taught in some countries, because they follow syllabus of some secular institutions. It's not important whether, for example, you believe or not. You can argue for the existence of God, or you can argue that God doesn't exist, and then you pass the exam. What's important is that you argue well.
Yes.
Yeah? It's not important whether you believe or not. We don't want to impose anything, but we want to help the students to be convinced. This is very important. I don't have time to mention, some stories from my Christian friends that how they also had this problem with the secular education. Anyway, so we designed it in the way that it flows logically, and person step by step can understand why Islam says this, why Islam says that. The first book is Islamic Belief System. This is the book which is already prepared, and now it's more than a year that we are offering this in different places. So Muharram last year, we first started with offering a course in Tanzania for more than 20 teachers. Then we had this in Birmingham, in London, in Toronto, in Hamburg, in some of other African countries. And inshallah, we hope that by spring we print it. So far we haven't printed because we wanted to test it for 1 year. So now, inshallah, after revisions are done, then we will print, inshallah. It starts with a chapter which is only scientific. This is nothing about religion, nothing from the Quran or Hadith. Only scientific facts about the creation, about the universe. And we thought Because when we wanted to plan this, we had more than 30 sessions just to plan this volume. When we wanted to plan this, we said, it seems that this is the Quranic model that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to reflect on the creation. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفَعَتْ. So we said, let us, before going into religion, talk about the harmony and also greatness, order that exists in the world, to prepare the mind of the student to think about religion seriously. So the first chapter is to prepare the mind, a kind of awakening. It's only scientific, nothing about religion. So we talk about order, about harmony, complexity and majesty of the world of creation. In different levels. We talk about ordinary beings, we talk about particles, we talk about galaxies. It's a different size. Then we have a session on knowing God, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it starts with some arguments for the existence of God. We have 3 arguments for the existence of God. One is the argument from design or Burhan al-Nazm. One is argument from Fitra, and one is the cosmological argument, Burhan al-Wujub al-Imkan. So these 3 arguments are mentioned. After proving the existence of God, we talk about divine attributes. First, we talk about different classifications of divine attributes, but then we focus on knowledge, power, wisdom, and justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to justice, we expand, because as you know, many people have questions about justice. Why there are problems in the world, why there are wars, there are conflicts, there are famine, drought,
ups and downs.
Yes, wars, so on and so forth. Then we talk about negative or negational attributes, sifat al-salbiyya, that Allah doesn't have any place, doesn't have any physical form, He's not visible, He has no time. Then we talk about the relation between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the world. What is the relation between Him and the world? Although He is transcendent, but He's not far. And we try to clarify the concept of rububiyyah, lordship, and different aspects of lordship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we talk about human beings as one of the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we talk about His creatorship and lordship, then we focus on human beings. So the next chapter is about knowing human beings. We talk about the fact that human beings are both body and soul. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah. Welcome. Are both Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Combination of body and soul. So we prove immateriality of the soul. And we bring some arguments from philosophy, from science about immateriality of the soul. Then we talk about theory of evolution. That human beings are directly created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although we would say that we don't have any problem with evolution, even if we believe in evolution, it doesn't contradict the fact that God is our creator, but we think that there is more evidence for not accepting evolution, at least as far as this generation of human being is concerned. According to some hadith, we have this idea that before this Adam there were many other Adams, and maybe they were a result of evolution, but this generation seems to be directly created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will talk about this then we talk about some aspects of the human existence. We talk about human mind, we talk about fitra, we talk about dignity, we talk about different inclinations and desires in human beings, we talk about free will, and here we expand and we talk about the idea of qaza and qadar. Do they contradict human freedom or they don't contradict? Then we took human beings having different needs. They don't have just physical needs. They have intellectual needs. They have spiritual needs. And then we address two important issues. One is racism. We say in Islam there is no place for racism because all human beings are equally human beings. We don't have any race as, for example, chosen people. And then we talk about gender. Men and women are also equally human beings. So black and white equal, woman and man also equal in humanity. Of course, then it's a matter of taqwa that make someone better. Then, after talking about God and His wisdom and His purpose of creating human beings, now we talk about the way God has guided human beings to reach that purpose. So we talk about guidance, about hidayah. General guidance, and we know that Allah has created everything and then guided. When Pharaoh asked, وَمَنْ رَبُّكُمَا يَا مُوسَى, who is your Lord, O Moses? Said, رَبُّنَا الَّذِي أَعْطَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلْقَهُ ثُمَّ هَدَى. Our Lord is the one that has created everything and then guided. Or الَّذِي خَلَقَ فَسَوَّى وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. So everything is guided. Even animals, plants are guided. But when it comes to human beings, we have, in addition to general guidance, we have reason and revelation. We talk about reason, about aql, and about revelation. When it comes to revelation, we have many discussions. What is the nature or essence of revelation? Wahy. What is the relation between wahy and aql? We believe in harmony. Especially in the school of Ahlul Bayt, we believe that these are two hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna lillahi ta'ala ala nas hujjatain. There is no conflict. They support and supplement each other. None of them can replace the other. We need both. We talk about different types of revelation. The prophets received the revelation in different ways. مَا كَانَ لَبَشَرًا أَن يُكَلِّمَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا وَحْيًا أَوْ مِنْ وَرَاءِ حِجَابٍ أَوْ يُرْسِلَ رَسُولًا. About those who received revelation. Then we talk about the conscience. And we believe that human beings are inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to know what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. But conscience is not hujjah. Aql is hujjah. Because conscience is subject to change. If someone keeps ignoring the voice of conscience, then that voice becomes weaker and weaker, then that voice will be switched off. Then even that voice can misguide you. You may reach the point that you feel good when you do bad things. So this is why in Islam we don't say conscience is hujjah. We talked about different types of soul. Then we talk about prophets. As you know, the Quran doesn't mention names of all the prophets. The Quran mentions only few. But the Quran says that there are many that we haven't mentioned their names. And according to hadith, we believe there were 124,000 prophets. Some of them are mentioned by name in the Quran. And only some of them had books. Not every prophet had a book. And what is the difference between Nabi and Rasul, between prophet and messenger? Different books. Why Allah kept sending different books? What is the idea of abrogation? So these are discussed here. Then among different qualities of the prophets, we highlight few of them that we think are very important. One is their knowledge. All the prophets had a special type of knowledge. It was not just conventional knowledge. A knowledge through learning, studying, attending a school. No, they had another type of knowledge, which was God-given knowledge. Ilm ladunni. Also, we talk about their willpower. Normally in the books of akhlaq, maybe you find this, but not aqaid. But we think this is very important. The prophets were 124,000. Out of them, 5 are the most important ones. But they are not called ulul ilm or ulul hilm or ulul hikmah. They are called ulul azm. So it means that what makes you at the top of prophets, and then at the top of human beings, is to have determination. Determination is very important. This is more than knowing what is good, what is bad. And sometimes I say, in a sense, perhaps Allah is teasing Prophet Adam. Because Allah said, لَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا فَاصْبِرْ كَمَا صَبَرَ أُولُو الْعَزْمِ مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. But when it comes to others, لَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. And for sure, for us, Allah would say the same thing. لَمْ نَجِدْ لَكُمْ عَزْمًا. So, willpower is very important. And infallibility. All Muslims believe in infallibility of the prophets, but they disagree on the extent of the infallibility. Some Muslims believe only in infallibility with respect to their mission. But with respect to the personal life or the life before prophethood, they disagree. But to some extent, everyone accepts. Then we talk about the miracles. What is the technical definition of miracles? And what is the relation between miracles and the natural law of the world and the causality? And what is the difference between miracles and extraordinary acts of, for example, imams or holy people, karama? Then we focus on the Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We start with a discussion about character of the Prophet, about his personality. Inshallah, in the second volume there is discussion about his life, his history. But here we don't talk about his life, we talk about his character, some of the traits of character of Rasulullah. Then we talk about the Quran as his miracle and as his message. There are different aspects of discussion about the Quran, about the fact that no one can imitate the Quran, eloquence of the Quran, about the challenge that the Quran makes, about the stories of previous people and nations and prophecies in the Quran, and a very important discussion that, again, normally you don't find the books of Aqaid, but we thought it's very important. Salam alaikum. Welcome. Is how to benefit from the Quran, how to interact with the Quran and benefit from the Quran for our spirituality. So this is another aspect of this discussion. Then we will talk about the Prophet being the last and final Prophet. When it comes to successorship, we only mention that there were different views. Because as I said, the first book and the second book is for Sunni and Shia. For Imama, we have a separate book. The whole book is dedicated to Imama. So here, we just say, Sunni believe this, Shia believe this, that's it. We raise the question, but we don't discuss it in this volume. In this way, Sunnis also can feel happy about this volume. And if they are interested, then we have one book on Imam. A discussion about the hereafter. So, we bring some arguments to prove the need for resurrection. And then we talk about the relation between this world and the hereafter. Ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. What you plant here, you will harvest there. We talk about death. And we talk about the world between death and the day of judgment, which is Barzakh. Then we have a chapter which is again not normally discussed in Aqaid, but we thought it's very important. If someone follows the plan of God for our guidance, what would he achieve? As-sa'adah. The salvation or felicity or happiness is something that we need to discuss to make them interested in knowing what should they do to achieve this. So we discuss about happiness or felicity for individuals and for society. Sometimes we use concepts which are very important, but because we don't explain them well, then it would not be very engaging. For example, we say, you become muqarrab. But then a youngster says, what does it mean to be muqarrab? What relevance it has to me? No, we don't explain it well. They think it's very abstract, concept. So we explain what does it mean to be near to God. What happens to someone who is near to God, and what happens to a society which is near to God. So even in dunya you can experience happiness and in the hereafter. So happiness of the individual in dunya, happiness of the society in dunya, and happiness in the hereafter. So, inshallah, if everything works well, by finishing the first volume, they should be convinced about existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They should have proper understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They should know why Allah has created us, what potential we have, what is the plan of God, not the detail of the plan, but the general plan. By sending prophets and equipping us with aql, He has guided us to achieve this. After this, the second volume is Islamic plan for life. So that is the content or the details of the plan. It starts with a discussion about self-purification. Tazkiyatun nafs. As you know, in Islam, we are not after taqwiyatun nafs. Unlike some forms of spirituality that they want to make your soul strong so that you gain some powers. In Islam, we are interested in tazkiyatun nafs, purification of the soul. And if the power comes, then that's byproduct. We don't try to be a pious person in order to read mind of people, or in order to do strange things. We are after purification of the soul. And as the Quran mentions, one of the major tasks of the Prophet Muhammad was yuzakkihim sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we talk about personal ethics and social ethics, individual values or personal values and social. We talk about piety, about remembrance of God, about planning. We thought that we should highlight the significance of planning as part of Islamic morality. Many times we think planning is not important. You just pray and then you do what you want. But planning is very important. Or, as we will talk later, to be orderly and punctual, to observe orderly and punctuality is very important. So, piety, remembrance of God, planning, supplicating, gratitude, reliance on God, repentance, sincerity, order and punctuality, adornment, to look nice, tidy. These are personal ones. When it comes to social ethics, observing the rights of others. One of the things that from childhood we have to learn is to be concerned about the rights of others. If it is not put in our education system, then we easily ignore rights of other people. Sometimes you may see a person, sitting in a taxi. One person is occupying, a space of two people. Then the other people have to squeeze themselves. They don't have a space. Sometimes, people, for example, even in the holy places like shrines, they shout, they scream, someone says, say salawat, another say, louder salawat. This poor person is trying to contemplate. We don't give him chance to contemplate. I think this is not proper. I think when you go to a holy place, you have to observe silence as a matter of respect and politeness. This is right of people. This person maybe from another part of the world has come here, has just 1 hour chance of ziyarah. He wants to think, he wants to contemplate. We make so much noise. Or when I read Quran or ziyarah, I enjoy reading loudly. But maybe my voice is not interesting for other people. One of the sign of mercy of Allah is that, alhamdulillah, we don't hate our own voice. But many times people may hate our voice. We are not all beautiful in our voices. Yeah, so it's very important to make people concerned about observing rights of other people. You don't need to be a king or ruler. Then they say, I have to be careful about rights of people. Every person, husband, wife, neighbors, colleagues, they can, brothers, sisters, they can be observing or disregarding rights of other people. About sympathy, about benevolence, fulfilling vows and trustworthiness. This is very important. You cannot be a Muslim and don't keep your promises. You cannot be a Muslim and not be trustworthy. I was thinking, why among all different qualities that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had, why he was known as Amin? For sure he had many other good qualities. Why he was known as Amin? My thinking led to this conclusion, that this was the quality that Rasulullah needed for the success of his mission in future. If people knew that he is Amin, then they could easily follow him. If we as Muslim scholars, imams, talabe, or ordinary Muslims, if we want to attract people towards Islam, we should be equipped with this quality of being Amin, trustworthy. Rasulullah was so much recognized as trustworthy that even 13 years after opposing him and fighting against him, still the pagans used to entrust their valuables with him. You know that when he wanted to migrate to Medina, he asked Imam Ali to give the trust back. So still he had some of their trust. They didn't believe in him. They said, you are a liar, you are a magician, but this was only for the public. In their heart, they had full trust in him. And also Rasulullah didn't say, these are the people who have killed, Ammar, Yasir, Sumayya, so let's, confiscate their money and we take with us to Medina. No. This is not what a Muslim does. Even Imam Zainul Abidin said, if the killer of my father entrusts me with the sword by which he has killed my father, I will give him back. This is amana. How much this amana exists in Muslim society, this is something that we have to evaluate. So we want to focus on these qualities in the books of education. Or chastity and modesty, humbleness, benevolence and altruism. Then we talk about system of individual behavior. We don't go into details of fiqh, because for that we have another book. We have one book on ahkam. Here we want to give them a general idea why we have Sharia, the main framework of Sharia, philosophy of some rulings, to the extent that Sunnis and Shia all can accept. Details, we have another book for the Shia. So we talk about bulugh, we talk about salat, about tahara, about fasting, about zakat, about foods and drinks, halal meat, haram meat, religious slaughtering, about alcohol, about etiquettes of eating and drinking, about narcotics and tobacco, about leisure time, music, movies, this type of thing. Just general guidelines. Then we talk about system of social behavior. We start with Salatul Jama'ah, because we believe that Salatul Jama'ah and Masjid and Imamul Masjid are three major aspects of Muslim social life. Okay? So the significance of Salatul Jama'ah, some basic rulings, but details for ahkam. About Masjid, history of Masjid, importance of Masjid, design and architecture of Masjid, the role of Imam, and religious school in Masjid. Masjid is not only a place of worship, it's a place of also learning. Then about Salatul Jummah, Friday prayer, about Hajj and Ziyarah, visiting the shrines, about interaction with the opposite gender, about hijab, clothing, mahram, non-mahram, rulings of relationship, and why there is such a ruling, why men and women should observe hijab and haya. Then about minorities. Muslim minorities in non-Muslim community, or non-Muslim minorities in Muslim community. Both of them. Then about Amr Ma'ruf, Nahy Anil Munkar, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. About war and peace, Islamic understanding of jihad, terrorism, disarmament, nuclear warfare. And about environment. Then about family. Significance of family, the rights and responsibilities of members of family, husband and wife, parents and children, brothers and sisters. There are different relations within the family. Then about marriage and divorce. Then we talk about society. Very briefly, we talk about the way Islam brings order, justice, and welfare to society. These are three major things. We need order, we need justice, we need welfare. So we talk about Islamic political system, judiciary system, and economical system. Very briefly, just in 15 pages. And then we talk about Islamic history, culture, and civilization. As you remember, in the first volume we had discussion about the character of the Prophet. Here we have a discussion about the life of the Prophet. Before becoming a Prophet and after becoming a Prophet in Mecca and Medina period. Then we talk about Islamic calendar, why we follow lunar calendar, what is Eid al-Fitr, what is Eid al-Adha, what is the months of Ramadan, Muharram and Ashura. We think Muharram and Ashura are for all Muslims. But then some occasions are only for the Shia. But Muharram and Ashura, every Muslim should know about it. The birth and birth of the Prophet. These are major events in Islamic calendar. Then about the Islamic world, history of the spread of Islam. How Islam is spread. You know, some people say Islam is spread by sword. But this is not the fact. Or contemporary Islamic societies. What is the current situation of Muslims in the world? And finally, a chapter about Islamic culture and civilization. So about scientific and cultural accomplishments of the Muslims, how Muslims, contributed to human civilization, and they developed, a unique civilization. About why, despite greatness of Islam, Muslims went to decline. Unfortunately, sometimes, especially some of the youths, when they look at the bad situation of the Muslim world, they think the reason is Islam. Then they think if they, for example, change their religion, or if they become secular, then they can make progress. They don't understand that the problem is not because of Islam. The problem is because of the mismanagement and misbehavior of some so-called Muslim rulers or politicians or statesmen. Then the difference between national, tribal culture and religious culture. For us it's very difficult to distinguish between what is Islamic and what is Iranian or Pakistani or Arab culture. For us it's difficult. For an outsider it's maybe impossible. Sometimes it's really, really difficult. Because whatever we do, they think this is what we do as a requirement of Islam. There are some customs that some people do, but they think this is Islamic. I read an interview about, when Imam Khomeini was in Paris, in Neuf-le-Château. So there was a lady also there. And this lady was interviewed last year. So she said, once a journalist asked me, what is the significance of eggs in Islam? Because most of the time you are eating eggs here. They thought, this is part of Islam or Islamic revolution to eat eggs. And he said, I explained, no, because here it's difficult to find halal meat and also it's expensive. And Imam Khomeini is trying to have simple life. So most of the time we eat eggs. But this has nothing to do with Islam. It's a kind of measure we have taken which suits this. But a journalist thinks that this must be something part of their religion, that they eat eggs. They cannot understand this. Some people, for example, when they convert to Islam, they think they should become like Arabs. Because they think that this is Islamic. And sometimes, they dress like Arabs, they, dress their hair or beards like Arabs. But this is not necessarily Islamic. This is respected, but not necessarily Islamic. So it's important to distinguish between religious tradition and culture, and national, tribal culture. Even in the school of Ahlul Bayt, sometimes we have some traditions, some customs in Azadari which relate to some particular part of a country or culture. But these people think that this is part of Islam and part of being a Shia. And if you want to talk about it, they get angry. They think that they are betraying, for example, Imams, if they change this custom. Not knowing that this is just one way of doing this. So this is the second volume. And it ends with a discussion about identity. What is Islamic identity? Then we have 3 books only for the Shia. Of course, non-Shia are welcome to study, but it's something that from the beginning we say, this is for the Shia. One is an ahkam. So we have tried to identify those aspects of fiqh that every person at that age must know. We talk about taqleed, and we want to make it very clear that taqleed is a rational approach. For a person who is not qualified, is not expert, the most natural thing is to refer to an alim. Even if he didn't have any hadith, just reason is enough to say that you have to follow experts. So we talk about the reasons for taqleed, we talk about the conditions of marja and how you choose your marja, and what is fatwa, what is ihtiyat, what is hukm, this type of terminology. Then about tahara, about wuzu, prayer. So some aspects of fiqh, the amr ma'ruf, the gaze and relationships, mahram, na mahram, hijab, relation between men and women, pictures, movies, the things which are related to tongue. Unfortunately, sometimes in books of ahkam you don't find the sins that can be committed, like backbiting, like tuhma, insulting people. Eating and drinking, narcotics, etiquettes of eating and drinking, transactions, what is interest, what is riba, ruling about buying and selling the things that are only used for haram purposes, gambling, bribery. Then about imama we have one particular book. Definition of Shia. Who are the Shia? How did Shiism started and emerged? What is the principle of imamah, the definition, the status of imam, the relation between prophethood and imamah, proving imamah of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the conditions of imam, responsibility of imam, what functions imam has, and then how to connect with the imam. Ma'rifah is the first thing. Obedience, ta'ah. Tawassul, ziyarah, mourning for imam. Shafa'ah, these are different ways that we connect to the imam. Some of the beautiful teachings of imams. Imam Raza alayhi salam said, "Lo alama an-nasu mahasana kalamina lattaba'una." So, what we know about those mahasana kalam? What we have shared. If people have not followed Ahlul Bayt, so it means that we were not doing this properly. Yeah, because Imam said, "Lo alama an-nas mahasana kalamina lattaba'una." So it means that we have not delivered this task. Then we focus on the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajuh. What is the doctrine of Al-Mahdi? We want to say that it's Islamic idea, it's not Shia idea, it's Islamic. What is the personality of Imam Mahdi? What are the reasons behind his occultation? What are the traits of Zuhur when Imam comes? What is the situation? And then we talk about some Shia beliefs that are misunderstood. Like for example, Bada, like Raj'a, like Taqiyya, or some practices. For example, about Salat. There are some ways that we perform Salat. Sometimes people don't understand. They ask, why you do this? So this is about Imamah. And the third is lives of Imams and Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha. Life of the Prophet was covered in the second volume. Life of Lady Fatima and Imams is covered in this volume, but we don't stop with the beginning of Ghaibah. We continue to cover the life of the Shia in the time of Ghaibah, highlighting the role of great ulama. Because the Shia have to understand that if we are today able to practice the school of Ahlul Bayt, it's because of great struggle of our ulama. And the only way to continue is also to keep in touch with ulama. If people understand this, that they have to follow ulama and be in touch with ulama, get guidance from ulama, then we will be saved from many problems. If people disconnect themselves from ulama and they start following, people, who speak nice, but they don't have deep knowledge of Islam, or they don't have that deep commitment to Islam, then the community gradually will go astray, na'uzubillah. So we want to focus on the great role of ulama throughout the history. So this is the plan of these 5 books. As I said, 2 of them for Sunni Shia, and 3 of them only for the Shia. And this is done in the way that if you have 5 hours per week for 2 years, you can finish. 36 weeks per year, we calculated in this way. Imagine you have 36 weeks a year, and then 5 hours per week. In some places, we have a school and madrasa, so 2 hours in the school, 3 hours in madrasa. Or maybe you have just madrasa 5 hours. In any case, it needs 180 hours to finish all the 5 books. This is the plan. So, those who want to study the book, we can, inshallah, provide them with the book. The first book will be printed in the spring after 1 year being tested. The second book comes in 2014 for test. 2015 will be printed. And then like this, every book is coming. If they want teacher training, we can offer teacher training in their own country or in Qom. If they want exam papers, we can send them exam papers. If they want us to mark and give certificate, again, we can do that. So the idea is that from Qom, we would have a center who would support all the Shia schools and madrasas with respect to this package. There are suggestions for lower levels, but we didn't go into madrasa level because there are some initiatives already, some from the past, some new ones. We want to give them chance. Inshallah, if they do job properly, we don't need to duplicate. We focus on this. This is in English in the first stage, but it will be then translated into other languages. But from the beginning, we worked on English. Even we didn't work on in Farsi because we thought our mindset should be, geared towards the people outside Iran. But inshallah, then it will be translated into Farsi, Arabic, Urdu, German, French, other languages, inshallah. From English is not difficult to translate into Western languages. And we have also Farsi, inshallah, ready soon. Then can be used for Urdu and Arabic, inshallah.
And your target audience is university and college students?
Yes. But at the moment, we even teach muballighin. We teach teachers because they haven't had this systematic approach before. But as I said, inshallah, in future, every youngster must have this. And to show you some of the pages of the book, it's like this. So it comes with key terms, progress tracking, activities, discussion. So it's like this.
You will print it here in Iran or West?
We will print it in Qom and also in some other places. So it's something we try to customize.
So it's possible we print it in Pakistan?
Sure. Just we need to make sure that it's the same standard. Sometimes it's better if it is printed locally because then people feel more, comfortable, the government or, other people, So it's like this. It's alhamdulillah, beautifully done. Okay, I stop here. Then if there is question, we can discuss. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب